listening to the Art of Homeschooling podcast, where we help parents cultivate creativity and connection at home. I'm your host, Jean Miller, and here on this podcast, you'll find stories and inspiration to bring you the confidence you need to make homeschooling work for your family. Let's begin. Well, hey there, and welcome to episode 88 here on the Art of Homeschooling podcast. Today, we're digging into a conversation about homeschooling curriculum and a question that comes up especially after you've gotten started on your homeschooling journey. So let's start off with a little description of our relationship to curriculum as we become homeschoolers and then start on this journey. So the first question that we often ask ourselves after we decide to homeschool is, what curriculum should I buy? We then go purchase the curriculum after doing some research and think we're all set. We think the curriculum will arrive, we'll open the box, and we'll start homeschooling. And then we get started and realize that using a purchased curriculum isn't quite as cut and dry as we thought it was. We miss a day, and then what do? A lesson doesn't seem like it's worth the time it takes, and we choose to switch gears. We wonder why the curriculum writer chose a particular story or a particular activity. And most of all, we feel like there's no way to finish it all. So after about 2 weeks, some people last a little longer, we begin to feel like we're behind, like there's something wrong with us, and maybe we're just not cut out for this homeschooling thing after all. And then after a meltdown or two, we often we're ready to regroup, right? Because of our conviction that homeschooling is a valid choice and it's the right choice for our child or children, our family right now. So then we regroup. We think, oh, maybe there's a better curriculum out there. So we do some research again and we go purchase another one. If this is you, or if you can relate to any part of this, just know that you're not alone. I did this very thing, and so many homeschoolers I talk to go through this as well. Just buying another curriculum and then another, and sometimes even another. But at some point, we start to wonder, is it possible to homeschool without a curriculum? Or a related question, do I even need a curriculum to homeschool? Or better yet, we sometimes even let ourselves start to wonder if we could create our own curriculum or customize using the resources we already have. So, short answers here. Yes, you can homeschool without a purchased curriculum package. No, you do not need to use someone else's curriculum to homeschool. And yes, you can create your own curriculum or homeschooling plan using the resources you already have. Okay, so let's take a step back for a moment. Let's zoom out for a moment to define curriculum, just so we're on the same page, because it's not actually a singular thing. When we talk about curriculum, what we're usually talking about is that package, right? The binder, the packaged curriculum that you purchase for a specific grade. But I just want you to know that there's more to this discussion of curriculum than that. Let me explain here briefly. There are really 3 different levels of curriculum, or 3 different facets to curriculum. And I think understanding this will really help you begin to craft your homeschool lessons in a more personalized way so that they actually meet the needs of each of your children. So first, there's the planned curriculum. That's the one you purchase, right? Or the one you write yourself. That's the plan on the paper. It's what you have in mind to teach to your child each day. And yes, you can create it yourself. So when homeschoolers ask the question, can you homeschool without a curriculum? My answer is always yes. You can homeschool without purchasing a grade level curriculum package. And when I'm asked, do I even need a curriculum? I say not necessarily. And that's when I answer those questions that way, I'm referring again to that purchased curriculum package. Okay, then there's the taught curriculum. That consists of what you actually end up teaching from that plan. Or it could be what emerges in the moment as a valuable learning experience. But let me just say that plan, whether you created it or someone else created it, it's never going to be carried out exactly as it was written on that piece of paper. In the emergent curriculum, this is a newer pedagogical term that I find really fascinating. It's really a whole philosophy of teaching that encourages being responsive to a child's interests and needs and adjusting the learning and the teaching as you go. I think that's what many homeschoolers are aiming for, right? And we all know, of course, that life is fluid, it's dynamic, and teachers rarely teach exactly what's planned. No matter what setting they're in, whether it be a classroom or a homeschool, the goal is not to take a plan on a piece of paper and then robotically carry that out, right? Just so we can check things off. We want that plan to guide us, but then we want to be present with the children in front of us and really respond to their needs. And that's why I love this idea of the emergent curriculum. Okay, finally, there's a third piece to this, and that's the learned curriculum. This is what the children actually take in from what we teach. And this is really the most important element of the whole curriculum discussion, because this is what matters in terms of the learning that's happening. And it's also, of course, the trickiest one, because we don't actually know what a child learns from the lessons that we teach. We cannot see inside their heads, right? So from the lessons we teach, the activities we lead them through, we don't actually know what sticks. We don't even know what they will retain from the lessons. So it's just another reminder that learning is mysterious and magical. So we want to just keep in mind that that end step is what our children are actually learning from the plan and the activities that we're doing. All right, now that we've clarified the many facets of curriculum, let's get back to the question, can you homeschool without a curriculum? And I say a resounding yes. And by that, I mean you don't need to purchase a curriculum package. There's nothing wrong with purchasing one, but I'm going to give you a few hints and a few tips here about what that might look like. So in fact, sometimes it's easier to create your own plan than it is to follow someone else's plan. And truthfully, the children themselves are the curriculum. And here's what I mean by this. One of my favorite quotes from Rudolf Steiner, who is the founder of Waldorf education, one of my favorite quotes, he talks about how our mission as the teacher is to look at the children before us and discern what they need right now. And what better setting to do this in than our homeschools? So here's what Steiner said, quote, "Where is the book in which the teacher can read about what teaching is? The children themselves are that book. We should not learn to teach out of any book other than the one lying open before us and consisting of the children themselves." End quote. Now, this quote, interestingly, was interpreted to mean that we each create our own curriculum from scratch as the teacher. And so when my children are now in their 20s and 30s, right? But when they were in elementary school, especially my older two, there was no Waldorf homeschooling curriculum out there to buy. You could not purchase one. It didn't even exist. And everyone said that the reason was because Steiner wanted each of us to create our own curriculum. Now the pendulum has swung in the opposite direction, and there's so much out there, right? There's curriculum, there are resources, there's so many homeschooling products to choose from. So I just want to encourage you to not stop with the curriculum, right? That is not the be all and end all. It can be helpful, but don't stop there. I want to encourage you to find your own path. And that's really my goal in everything that I do, in the support that I offer at Art of Homeschooling, because I know that that's what's most helpful to you, for you to learn your own way of bringing the learning alive in your home for your children. Your own way of planning and engaging and enjoying your homeschool life is what's going to bring the learning alive the most, right? So my mission is really to help you keep homeschooling simple, inspiring, and doable. And honestly, I just think this whole conversation about curriculum is so important for homeschoolers to know and understand. Turning everything over to an expert by purchasing a curriculum package and expecting to use it as is, that's not the perfect solution. It isn't even realistic because we don't use all of the curriculum. In fact, I have found in talking to probably thousands of homeschoolers over the years at this point in my career that we end up using anywhere from about 30% to maybe 75% of a curriculum that we purchase. So you won't use it exactly as is, and that's okay. You need to make this homeschooling journey your own. So here's my best advice. Make some decisions yourself before you even open that curriculum, and empower yourself. Give yourself permission to change things up as you go along. And at some point, you can even begin to create your own curriculum and lesson plans. That's what I help homeschoolers do. Because now that you know the most important curriculum there is the learned curriculum, what your children take from the lessons, then you have a starting point, right? So let's start with that in mind and work backward from there. I know you just want someone to tell you exactly what to do. I wanted that too, believe me. And a curriculum can give us guidance. So can an experienced homeschooler, right, who's a little bit farther along on the path than you. But the rest is up to you. And that's why it's better to think of a purchased curriculum as an example of how someone else taught a certain subject or grade. And then after looking at that example, you decide how you will do it. A homeschooling mom recently told me this. She said, I find that if you start with detailed block planning or simply following a curriculum as is, before you create your own framework or overarching plan, you reach for too many resources or tend to overthink everything. This is really the recipe for overwhelm, my friend. Buying more and more curriculum and resources does not help us find clarity. It actually can confuse the situation. So my biggest takeaway for you today is this. No matter what curriculum package or resources you own or choose to purchase, you are the leader in your homeschool. You will find your way. You will find your way and grow as the leader over time. So just start where you are. That's all any of us can really do. Just as Maya Angelou, the author, said, do the best you can until you know better. Then, when you know better, do better. Your children are so fortunate to have you in their lives, and you are doing such important work in this world, my friend. So please reach out to me if you want any support as you go along. I have a few previous episodes here on the podcast to recommend you listen to if you want to explore this topic further. So check out how to customize your homeschool curriculum and invite more engagement. If you're interested in tips for bringing more hands-on learning, no matter what curriculum you're using, and that's in episode 54 here on the podcast. If you want to embrace the fact that there's really no such thing as open and go curriculum, then have a listen to episode number 51 so you can discover what to do instead. And if you want more tips on how to use that curriculum you purchased, check out episode 28, where I remind you that the two most important skills we can learn as home educators are the skill of flexibility and the skill of observation. Thanks so much for joining me today. You can find the links to all that I've mentioned here in the show notes for this episode at artofhomeschooling.com/episode 88. That's all for today, my friend. But here's what I want you to remember. Rather than perfection, let's focus on connection. Thanks so much for listening, and I'll see you on the next episode of the Art of Homeschooling podcast.